What are your top tips for coping with exam stress?
Yoga and dogs.
Get up early and go to the library.
I don't cope.
Resort to alcohol.
I eat. Same, comfort eating a lot. I just try to sleep as much as I can. Herbal tea, chamomile is nice.
I just kind of leave it last minute and hope for the best.
Sports a little bit, like I go boxing. I sometimes go for a walk, like just outside and just get out of the house for a bit.
You just manage your time and then it's fine.
Nah, I don't cope.
More study you do, the better off you are.
I generally tend to not get that.
Going to movies, doing something like completely out of the blue.
Smoke. Always have a good dinner as well.
You can only do as much and do as well as you can. But I have a little saying, stress is the enemy of success.
Revise early, start early.
Everyone has a beer, don't they, when they finish? Break things up into like what area of the notes I want to be hitting on what day, which ones I want to have gone through.
I kind of try and see my friends as much as I can.
I'll specifically plan my day, and I'll do that from the very beginning of semester.
I don't really cope too well, to be honest with you.
I drink lots of mint tea.
Whenever you're just worried, just like sit down, grab a book and go and study like right now.
Another massive thank you to all the students who answered our campus chat question this week. What are your top tips for coping with exam stress? It was great to hear all the very different methods people used. I'm sure the listeners relate to some of these, and I actually got some new tips for myself. Welcome back to Psych Soc O'Clock. This episode is Exams, Here We Go Again. We are
Rhoda from Belo.
Kaori, Takeda, Molina.
And Amelia Hilton, your host for this month. With students at the University of Glasgow and all around the globe approaching the end of the first semester, talk of exams keeps creeping up in our conversations and thoughts. So this month, we're going to focus on how to survive through revision and thrive in exams. How are you both feeling about exams?
100% very stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely stressed.
I'm only first year, so I can't imagine how you guys are
And
coping.
fourth year.
Yeah. Actually, third year has hit me hard. Like it's more complicated than I thought it would be. And also, it's so dark outside. I feel like because there's no light after the lectures anymore, I'm just like, oh, okay, well,
I'm ready to go to
bedtime.
bed.
Let's do this. Well, actually, then I'm in the library until 11, and it's quite terrible.
Well, now it's 24 hours, isn't it, the library? They're gonna
Yeah.
Oh,
change
is it?
Yeah.
I actually don't think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I do.
I usually get up at 7 and then I'm in the library at 8. Yeah.
I like some areas in the library where there's natural light, but sometimes it feels a bit like a prison if you've been in there all day and it's all like...
Have you tried the 11th floor? That's the best one. I love
I haven't
it.
tried
Level
the
2,
11th
you
floor.
never know.
What time is it?
What time is it?
Yeah.
No idea.
Pop psychology.
So, following our theme this month, most people will wonder if we have any tricks or methods to improve our memory. So to prove if memory tricks actually work, we'll do a small competition and everyone at home can join us. I will recite 10 words now, and at the end of the episode, we will check if Amelia and Rhoda can still remember the words.
This is going to be embarrassing.
Yeah, God. Really don't have a great memory.
Let's prove this. Well, Amelia will use the method of loci.
Yep, so this one was talked about in our research methods class in year 1. So it was used by the ancient Greeks and the European memory champion, Simon Reinhard, I think he's called. So basically, this involves choosing a journey that you know well with several points that you are familiar with, and you need to think of a relevant image that relates to the item on your list. And then you put each image at familiar points on your journey. So, for example, if banana's on your list, I don't know if it is, then maybe like my door handle would become a banana in my mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But for people who don't like that kind of thing or who have studied music, there's also another one, which the University of Miami, they studied in 2017. So basically they found that rhythm effectively transfers verbal information into working memory, but then melodic patterns, although they take learners more time to learn, show deeper encoding. So they find if you have something with a distinct rhythm and a distinct melody and use that to remember lists, then it's a very good overall thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
So Rhoda will use the link method.
Yeah, so basically I will make a story out of the words. So with every new word that I hear, I will add a part to my story and hopefully remember the story and also the words I try to remember with it at the end.
So is everyone ready to memorize?
I think so.
Yeah, let's go.
These are 10 words. Orange. Laptop. Pen. Red. Glasses. Shoe. Window. foot, black, and dream.
Oh my god, I've already forgotten some.
Okay. My goal is at least 2.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I've got 2.
Recharge your revision.
So these are mnemonics and they are widely used and super easy to use. But it's important to know how to use them effectively. It's important to use positive, pleasant images because the brain often blocks out unpleasant ones. Also use vivid and colourful images and even all of our senses. And it's important to use also humour because funny and peculiar things are easier to remember than the normal ones. Also, rude or sexual rhymes are so difficult to forget. So
Maybe that's why people remember swear words better in foreign languages than any other words.
Yeah, very true.
they sound better.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they do sound great.
Exactly. But what about students that feel like they just cannot sit down and study for a few hours? Studies have shown that more and more students use cognitive enhancers, commonly called study drugs, to sharpen their mind. Annette Brule and Barbara Sahakian report that 2 to 25% of students use study drugs in various countries.
Wow.
Adderall was especially common, with 75% of illicit prescription drug users reporting the usage. So there's an important differentiation between the use as a treatment, which is completely warranted and improves measurable deficit, and the use as a cognitive enhancer in a healthy person above their typical function. So the question is whether cognitive enhancers are actually really effective, because research shows that there are as many studies showing a positive effect as studies showing a negative effect or no effect at all. Sebastian Sattler and Konstantin Wiegel studied the effect of cognitive test anxiety and the use of cognitive enhancers, and they found that the higher the test anxiety resulted in a higher prevalence for using more cognitive enhancers. They discussed whether the fact that high test anxiety students take more cognitive enhancers is related to them envisioning the negative sides of their anxiety as not doing well in a test. And because of the subjectively attributed beneficial effect, students might perceive the use of these drugs to be instrumental in coping with stress and anxiety. Scott Vrecko conducted a qualitative study on the significance of emotions and the experience with study drugs at King's College in London. He found that the alteration in emotion is what is perceived to improve students' academic performances. Students reported improved moods such as feeling up, drivenness, interestedness, even when they had to study something boring for a really long time. Students usually took the study drugs because the idea of academic work or just getting started seemed mentally draining to them, and they could only overcome these negative feelings through an enhancer. Others, however, reported that on the cognitive enhancer they would feel increased tension and stress that did not necessarily stop when the work was done. So do you guys have any other ways of getting yourself motivated when you have that day where you actually feel you just cannot sit down and start?
I like to write lists.
Okay.
So I've got this app on my laptop where I can have post-it notes on my desktop, and
I
I
enjoy
write the
that,
list
yeah.
all the time. Yeah, it's quite satisfying when you tick them off as well.
I actually have actual post-it notes on my laptop, so on the top of my laptop I just can rip them off, and I love that feeling of just
do you rip
crumble
them up
them.
afterwards?
No, I crumble them. It's just
nice.
this feeling I did this, I finished this.
I think it's also important to know how to do realistic lists.
Yeah.
Because you can do a list, put everything you want to do, but you don't really take into account how much time you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to do all the stuff. Because if I make a list and I don't complete everything I was planning to do on that day, get really stressed. And then I have to add the things I didn't do today, I have to add them on my list for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that makes my list bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it actually took me quite a long while to learn how to make a realistic list for the day. And now sometimes there's 1 or 2 items left. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's a success anyway. But yeah, it took me quite a long time.
How did you learn?
Actually, my mum. So my mum is a psychologist, and her solution to everything is buy a book. So when I called her in first year, crying because I was so stressed about, I don't even know what about. I was first year. I really should have chilled a bit more.
You're a
But I called her.
anyway.
Oh God, I am a very stressy person. So I called my mum and was crying about all the stress and how I have so much to do. And then a few days later, I received a parcel with a book inside on actually how to effectively write your own lists and how to structure your day a bit better. And that helped quite a bit. Definitely.
Nice.
What was the name of the book? just in case.
We will link
Someone-
that.
I
in the
will I will
description.
look that up and I will link that into this description.
I'll add that to my list.
Exactly. So back to the drugs, to the study drugs. Are they healthy? Not really. Studies have shown that these drugs can produce symptoms of malnutrition, high blood pressure, anxiety, and increase the likelihood of having a stroke. Additionally, the rapid increase of dopamine in the brain can disrupt the normal communication between brain cells and increase the risk of addiction. Pharmaceutical companies describe them as highly addictive, with the potential cause to lead to strokes, seizures, as well as problems in different organs, including the kidney and the liver. How do other students feel about their peers using study drugs, though? Crystal Cheeske and Simone Schall from Cambridge found that their participants condemned the use when there were long-term health effects and when it provided an unfair advantage in an exam situation. So far, research has not shown consistent effectiveness of the so-called study drugs, and the long-term health implications are not known for healthy participants. Even though some users like the way it makes them concentrate, they're highly addictive and lower the ability to be able to study properly without them.
That's really interesting because it sounds kind of like it may be more the placebo effect of
Yeah,
taking the drug.
A lot of studies have found that as well. Like, there are really so many studies that don't show effect or just show a negative effect. Exactly.
Well, some people in the World Memory Championships, which is a real thing, can perform amazing feats of memory without using drugs. So these championships were first held in 1991, and now 62 countries around the world take part. So
Quite a lot.
yeah, it's gaining popularity. This year is the 27th World Championships, and they're going to take place in Hong Kong. There's a World Memory Sports Council, which organise and monitor everything, and they aim, and this is a quote, to grow the sport in all continents and to eventually make it an Olympic sport. End quote. So Usain Bolt might be, well, not anymore Usain Bolt. He's retired now, isn't he? But after sprinting, people might have to sit down and memorise a list of words. They aim to make mental literacy skills and memory techniques accessible to everyone, irrespective of their income, culture, circumstances, location, age, or gender. And at the world level, some disciplines, like cards and numbers, can have a 1 hour memorisation period and 2 hour recall time.
That's quite long, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's really
It's
long.
really serious.
Yeah.
And people train all year and like for multiple years to try and win.
Wow.
The 10 different disciplines are 1 hour numbers. So you've got 1 hour to memorise as many numbers from a list as you can. 5-minute numbers. Spoken numbers, which are read out 1 per second. 30-minute binary digits. So that's 30 minutes of zeros and ones. You've got 1 hour playing card memorisation. So that's where you go through decks of cards and try to memorise as many decks as possible. 15-minute random lists of words. 15-minute names and faces. 5-minute historical dates. 15-minute abstract images. 5-minute random images, and speed cards, which is always the last one, and that involves memorising the order of one shuffled deck of 52 playing cards as fast as you can. So all of these sound horrific, but in 2018, Zhang Ying, I think I'm saying her name right, broke 2 world records.
Wow.
Legend. She memorised 1,808 random numbers in 30 minutes, and memorised 1,044 cards in 30 minutes.
That is insane.
I know.
That's
it's just
crazy.
I can barely remember my shopping list if I forgot.
I've got to write mine down, yeah.
Yeah.
Which one do you think you guys would find hardest of all these challenges?
I feel like the 1 hour playing cards, just going through deck after deck, trying to remember, that is a lot. That is a lot.
1 hour of numbers.
Yeah.
They're not related to each
Yeah.
other, so random numbers, you can't really relate.
Yeah, that's so
each
true.
number.
I think binary digits I'd find really hard because you just get so bored of hearing zeros and
Zero,
ones.
one,
You
one,
lose
zero,
track.
zero,
Yeah.
zero, zero,
Lose
one.
concentration
Oh God,
too.
yeah.
And I have a problem with names of faces anyway. Like there are people in my seminars who I talk to every time, but it's got to the point where it's too awkward to say I'm really sorry.
I
What's
hate
your
that.
name?
I hate
Yeah.
that. Yeah. But it's always like pal, mate.
But yeah, how's it going?
Speedy Studies.
Now we're going to move on to the Speedy Studies segment. In this segment, we each have a minute to summarise studies, and a step up from last time, this time we're actually going to have a timer. So we're going to get as close to a minute as we can. And Kaori mentioned she was feeling confident.
Don't
before.
speak too soon.
Are you ready?
Yes. So this study is called Does Listening to Preferred Music Improve Reading Comprehension Performance? by Protg and Kaori in 2014. So following literature that suggests that listening to music that one likes increases cognitive performance, the researchers in this study asked 30 participants aged between 19 and 65 years to undertake a reading comprehension task under 4 different sound conditions: quiet, like lyrical music, dislike lyrical music, and instrumental or non-lyrical music. They found that like music is equally disruptive as disliked music when listened at the same time as performing the reading comprehension task. Also, both were significantly worse than non-lyrical music and quiet conditions. Boom.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
44 seconds. Yeah.
Great.
I enjoy that.
It's very impressive.
So, do you guys listen to music while you study?
Yeah, definitely. I listen to classical music. And when my nerdy side comes out, I also listen to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, which is great because it's classical, at the same time quite exciting, unless I get too excited by it and then start thinking about Lord of the Rings instead of studying.
Are there any songs you take out of the playlist because they get you too pumped up?
No, I usually just I kind of like, if I started, I just want to go through with them, kind of like feeling my way through the films.
Yeah, I feel like I would get too excited listening to Harry Potter soundtrack.
Yeah, I can't do that. I tried, I can't. Harry Potter is too much. It's too much.
I really like, there's this playlist on Spotify called Jazz Study, which I like jazz because it's kind of motivating, but then also quite calm. And it does all of these really like calm piano covers of When You Dream Upon a Star and songs that I kind of know, but not well enough.
Okay, I enjoy that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I also listen to a Spotify playlist called Revision Ballads.
Ooh.
But they are songs like everyone knows.
Oh, what, with lyrics?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And I find myself singing along and I just stop concentrating on what I'm doing.
There was one I found which was well-known songs, but instrumental versions of those. I find that even worse than having the lyrics there because you're like, oh, what is that word right now? So my speedy studies is about group study, so I'm ready when you are. I don't know if I can beat 44 seconds, but I'll try.
And go.
We think that group study is better than individual study, but 55% accuracy... Oh no, wait, stop. I need to start that again, I didn't even introduce. Right, we ready?
Yes. Go.
Ray Herbert wrote an article for APA. He found that we think group study is better, but there was 55% accuracy for people who studied in groups and 70% for individual learners. This, he thinks, is due to collaborative inhibition, a term coined by Suparna Rajaram, which describes when a group is not performing at its overall collective potential that one would expect from each of the individual members. This might be due to social loafing, which is when individuals make less effort because they think everyone else is partly responsible for carrying the load of the group, or cognitive failure. There's disruption of the actual retrieval strategies each individual uses because over time we've all developed our own preferred ways of storing and retrieving information, but people in groups tend to try and align all of their methods. However, Annie Murphy-Paul discusses the Protg Effect, which claims teaching is the most effective way to learn, as people who know how to teach have to summarise and communicate their ideas in a very effective way, which helps them recall it accurately. 9 seconds over 1 minute.
Oof. Next time we'll do it with a buzzer and then it'll just cut you off.
Yeah, true.
It's getting better though.
Right, are you ready, Rhoda?
I am ready.
Yeah.
The Power of Successive Relearning, Improving Performance in Course Exams and Long-Term Retention by Ross and Delonsky and Scartelli in 2013. The authors conducted 2 experiments to find out how successful combining 2 of the most effective study methods would be regarding the outcome in the end of the year exam. They combined testing effects and spacing effects to successive relearning. This involves alternating retrieval practice with restudy opportunities during initial learning until each item is recalled correctly, followed by additional retrieval with restudy on subsequent days. They evaluated the technique with students enrolled in Psychology 1 using a flashcard study system over 14 weeks, and found that successive learning improved performance on the exam by more than a letter grade. So the take-home message here is, structure your studying so that you include both retrieval and restudy, use more than 1 practice trial per study session, and this method is not feasible with lengthy text. Extract the most important information into key points. Happy studying.
Oh, that was very well done. So
Ooh,
that's 59 seconds.
Oof, I enjoyed
0.76. That was.
I have to say I did practice quite a while.
It shows.
Do you think that you already implement some of these like methods into your regular studying?
I definitely, I think the restudy bit I need to do for sure. Because I made flashcards, but I haven't actually gone over them. So they're just piling up and I'm like, being so productive.
Yeah, but actually I'm not taking anything in. Yeah. I have that a lot when I'm like, oh, that was a great day. I made so many notes, but then if I like think about it, I actually don't know any of my notes.
Yeah, because when I'm writing up my notes, I feel like, I actually know this, I'll remember this, and then you go back to your notes 2 weeks later, and I don't even remember writing this.
Exactly.
Psychomyth of the month.
Now we're going to look at the Psychomyth of the month. So this is a new segment where each month we are going to discuss a commonly held idea which researchers don't believe in. So this month we are looking at learning styles. There's a wide-held belief that students learn most effectively when taught using their preferred learning style. This then influenced teachers in their lesson designs, it influences teaching in classrooms, revision methods that students used, and is often used to explain poor classroom performance. So someone who's not doing that well in class might be told, oh, well, you think you're a visual learner, but really you're an auditory learner. The most widely used method was developed by Neil Fleming, and he developed the Vark Principle, which stands for Visual, Auditory, Reading and Kinesthetic, and claims that each person is one of these 4 types of learner. He worked as a school inspector and developed his learning style theory based on observations of different teaching methods, and then later went back and did research working backwards from his theory.
Oh no.
Yeah. He claims every student has a preferential style of one of these and learns best using corresponding techniques. And 93% of practising teachers in the UK believed this to be true, and 76% of UK school teachers surveyed in the research I looked at used learning styles when teaching and believed this benefited their pupils. But the majority of recent research has showed that the idea of learning styles is not considered real by most academics, or at least it's not quite as simple as the Vark method proposes. So Daniel Willingham, a psychologist at the University of Virginia, said, quote, "There's evidence that people do try to treat tasks in accordance with what they believe to be their learning style, but it doesn't help them," end quote. And there are various problems with the learning styles concept, so it can use to pigeonholing, where someone who is, for example, thought to be a visual learner is dissuaded from using techniques that don't match their learning style, or even from doing subjects which don't match their preferred learning style. And on the opposite side, someone who thinks they're a visual learner may become overconfident in their capabilities in sort of visual subjects. It's been found that presenting information in multiple sensory modes is a better support to learning. And I really liked, while I was researching this, that there was this one paper called Varking Up the Wrong Tree, which made me giggle for quite a long time.
It's a good title.
That was a good title, yeah.
Have you guys heard of the learning styles principle before?
Not really.
No.
I feel like there's something similar that was done in my school, but that was probably when I was 12 or 13. But not like, none of my teachers has ever actively used that, I would say. But also I'm German, so that might be UK teachers.
Yeah, I think it's quite common here. Because I got, in all of my secondary school assemblies and things, they'd be like, make sure you use the right learning style for you. Do mind maps if you're a visual learner, or...
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, in Spain they don't use that. They have a very general learning style for everyone, so everyone has to learn the same style.
No, for us, we learned a lot about learning techniques, and then basically we could pick on like what we liked.
They gave us
We had an entire
options.
class.
So they taught us the options, and you can decide which one you want to use, but not during the class. Like, they taught us in a general way, and then you can do it in your own time.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how it was for us as well.
Oh, nice.
Exactly.
Make exam stress your friend.
I'm going to start with the positive effects of stress. We all know that feeling of overwhelming stress when you can feel it in your entire body and everything just gets too much. It is paralyzing, induces anxiety, and some people, me, tears. But sometimes stress seems to be the exact thing that will get a person to finally start their work and can motivate them to be more productive. Richard Lazarus suggested that there are 2 types of stress. There's distress, the negative stress that causes anxiety, feels unpleasant, decreases performance, and can lead to mental and physical problems. And eustress, the positive stress, which motivates and focuses energy, is perceived as within our coping abilities, feels exciting, and actually improves performance. O'Sullivan analyzes the relationship between eustress and life satisfaction among undergraduates. He describes eustress as healthy, positive, and constructive outcome of stressful events and stress response. He describes a series of case studies that actually found that students with higher levels of stress attained higher academic achievements in school, while those with less stress did not perform as well. They stress that the key is to not maximize the stress levels, but to regulate them at an optimum level. The study found that eustress was a significant predictor of life satisfaction among students, where participants who reported high levels of eustress also reported a higher level of life satisfaction, and the other way around. Meserado, Richard, and Mattea analyzed engagement, flow, and eustress of university students. He found that eustress had a significant positive relationship with flow. According to the flow model by Nakamura, 1988, experiencing flow encourages a person to persist at and return to an activity because of the experiential rewards it provides, thereby fostering the growth of skill over time. In several studies, flow was associated with commitment and achievement during the high school years. These findings suggest that eustress has a differential role in an academic setting and can help students to focus on their task and be productive. All of this sounds great so far, but how do you act on this information? How do you turn your distress into eustress? Kelly McGonigal gave a TED Talk about changing your perception of stress. She talks about a study by Iola Keller that tracked 30,000 people over 8 years and asked them whether they believed that stress was harmful for them. People who experienced a lot of stress and believed it was harmful to them had a 43% increased chance of dying in the next year. However, people who did not view stress as harmful had the lowest risk of dying, even compared to the people who experienced relatively low stress. She says that changing your mindset about stress can help you turn distress into eustress. And you do this by interpreting physical changes in your body as being energized and ready for the challenge, instead of attributing it to anxiety. A study by Jeremy Jameson actually found that cardiovascular profile looks more similar to a state of courage than to the usual profile of anxiety and stress when you use this method. So it is important to notice the bodily changes that come with stress and then reappreciate them as your body getting ready for you to tackle whatever caused the stress. If you would like to know a bit more about this, watch Kelly McGonigal's TED Talk named How to Make Stress Your Friend. It is really great and actually tried out this method. Have you ever tried to view stress like that as more of like a challenge?
I haven't. I'm definitely going to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I think it's super useful.
Yeah, because I guess it is a natural priming response for your body to try and cope with what's coming.
I actually tried this last week because after viewing the TED Talk, I was like, oh cool, I can do this. And it actually helped me in a few situations where it's just like, okay, I can feel like this, I don't know, I always get this feeling in my chest where it's just too much. Like, okay, this is just my body getting ready. And it quite helped me like to refocus and get back into work instead of freezing in front of like the entire pile of stuff that I have to do.
Oh, that's really cool.
I feel like I need to have a minute of a breakdown and then I'm like, okay, that's minute over. I'm ready to do stuff.
Sometimes I know that my breakdown is coming and I'm like, I can schedule it in. I know I have to call my mum, cry a bit, and then afterwards I'm like,
I do the same.
okay, I can read, I can do this. This is fine.
Over this.
The thing is, I find it hard to stop my breakdowns when they come on. So
Okay.
I think maybe if I can immediately try and channel that into
And just skip.
skip
skip
the
that
action.
bit and use the useful bit.
That would be quite good. But what if exam season brings out all the negative elements of stress in you? Here are some potential ways to unwind.
So I looked at the way exercise can reduce stress. And according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, that is a mouthful, physical activity is effective at reducing tiredness, improving alertness, and improving concentration, and overall enhances your cognitive function. Exercise and other physical activity produce endorphins, which can improve the ability to sleep as well. And As the interview will show, sleep can also help prepare you for exams and help to reduce stress. They also found exercise in groups particularly reduces stress. So a study in the American Journal of Health Promotion, which was done by the University of Minnesota, surveyed over 14,800 students at 94 different US universities, asking about exercise habits and mood. And they found that students who exercised vigorously for at least 20 minutes, at least 3 times a week, were less likely to report poor mental health, and they reported less perceived stress. But some of these benefits actually come from the social aspects of doing sport and group activities. So I thought that was quite interesting.
That is quite interesting, yeah. I don't do group activities or sport, like group sports. No.
I've started going to more classes at the gym because I find it makes it a lot more fun. If you can do it
have
with
someone
people.
looking at you and you're
to
and
then
do
you can
stuff.
bring out
To
the
be fair,
competitiveness.
the last time I've been to the gym was 3 weeks ago, so really I should find someone to do it with.
They also found that there's an overall cognitive improvement from doing exercise. Heidi Godman, in an article for Harvard Health, discusses a study at the University of British Columbia which found that regular aerobic exercise raises heart rate and increases sweat gland activity, and also appears to increase the size of the hippocampus, which is a brain area involved in verbal memory and learning. And the article states the prefrontal cortex and medial temporal cortex, which are brain areas involved in thinking and memory, have a greater volume in people who exercise regularly compared to controls.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the causality causality question, but it's quite interesting. So, do you guys exercise during exams?
I try to because it makes me feel a bit relaxed. I get out of the gym and I feel like I can go back to the study much more relaxed, open-minded.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I feel like I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
I always feel a bit guilty.
Which I could use to study.
Sometimes when I schedule in a proper 12-hour library day, I need something like a break in the middle.
Yeah, I'm a 12-hour library day.
Yes.
Wow.
Very long.
I'm a bit. That's a bit too much. But
It should get you like your own little cubby hole or something, your own little space.
yeah,
Well, I've seen people with fairy lights in booths and candles.
with fairy lights. Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like candles. That's a bit dangerous in a library with all the books, though. You might be kicked out.
Yeah.
I found information about yoga and how can yoga reduce stress. So yoga and other mind-body practices train your body and mind to be able to cope with stress better and improve overall health and well-being. But yoga is a bit different from other type of exercise as it combines both physical fitness with an underlying philosophy of self-compassion and awareness. Many studies have reported how yoga has helped reduce levels of stress. A study by Benvenuti and colleagues in 2015 found that a single session of yoga improved stress reactivity and recovery after acute stress exposure. Another study by Pascoe and Bauer showed that yoga practice led to a better regulation of the sympathetic nervous system and a decrease in depressive and anxious symptoms. So, fundamental principle of yoga is that your body and mind are one and connected. Stress in one domain will affect the other and vice versa. And many of us live primarily in either our mind or our body, which creates imbalance and even a lack of awareness. For example, people with a very analytical careers may spend a lot of time in their minds and may not realize how much tension is stored in their bodies. Or if you're an athlete, you may be keenly aware of your body but could benefit from becoming more aware of your mental state. So there's ways to integrate yoga into your daily life. For example, breathing in and out is key to connect with your body and down the dial of stress. So you have to breathe in and breathe out.
Yeah.
So that helps you reduce your stress. Also, take 15 minutes a day to do a guided meditation, as it has been shown to effectively reduce stress, and practice RAIN. So this acronym means R, recognize what is happening. A, allow life to be just as it is. I, investigate inner experience with kindness. And N, non-identification, realization or awareness that we are not defined or limited by our emotion or stories.
I really like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the allow life to be just as it is.
Yeah.
I
And
sometimes
yeah.
can need that. Just be like,
Yeah.
yeah, right now it's stressful.
Or
That's
even
okay.
recognize what is happening, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know what's going on,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on with your body or with your mind.
I read this one phrase, which sometimes I repeat to myself when I'm feeling anxious, because for me, normally, I feel anxious when I either worry I'm not doing enough or things feel outside of my control, and it is what it is,
Yeah.
which I really, I
Yeah.
just thought put it really simply.
I really like, I read something that says you can restart at any point of the day. Like, just because you procrastinated for an hour doesn't mean that has to be your day. You can literally
Yeah.
take a breath and restart. And that really helps me, because sometimes I get into this mood of,
Oops.
I wasted half an hour now, or an hour or 3 hours. That's the day done for me. And then I'll sit down, take a breath. I'm like, okay,
You can start
I
again.
can start again. Like, that doesn't have to define my entire day.
Yeah. I looked at reading as well for stress reduction, so perhaps for people who aren't able to do yoga or don't think it's for them, this is another option. So a study by the University of Sussex in 2009, shout out to everyone from Sussex, especially West Sussex, you rock, volunteers purposefully had their stress levels and heart rates increased, and then researchers tried various stress reduction methods, and they found that reading was actually the most effective. Stress levels decreased 68% after just 6 minutes of reading, which was better than other methods like listening to music, taking a walk, or having a cup of tea. And some researchers think because reading is both active and passive in the way that it takes up quite a lot of your cognitive ability, because you have to read and understand the words and then also form visual representations, but you're still following someone else's thoughts and ideas. It's a really good way to focus but disconnect from maybe worrying thoughts that you're having.
Disconnect from the real world.
Yeah.
You get introduced to another world.
Yeah.
I absolutely love
Yeah,
reading.
love
Like,
it.
I always have a book with me. I always try to read, like, just in between a few minutes.
I feel like I love so much reading that I just get absorbed
Yeah.
by the book,
Yeah.
and I can't stop reading. So I need to have time to actually read
Okay.
how much as I want.
Yeah,
I like to read before bed, but I always fall asleep partway through.
I started to, because if I read really interesting books, because I love stories.
Can't stop.
I can't stop. So right now I'm reading interesting but kind of like factual books. So I read something on racism or on feminism, stuff like that, because that I can read in between and I get absorbed into it, but just for like 10, 15 minutes.
And it's not like a story.
Exactly, where I really am like, oh god, I need to know,
like, read the next chapter.
Short stories might be a good way of like
Oh,
a
yeah, that's
compromise
true, actually.
between.
But then I'm so sad when they're over.
Over.
So
They're over too quickly.
Exactly.
Another thing, as Kira said earlier, is mindfulness, which is becoming more and more popular, especially in schools for students who are struggling with exam stress. And a Cambridge University study using 600 university students randomly assigned students into two groups. Both had access to the university's support and counselling services and NHS services. But one group was offered an additional 8-week mindfulness course, which included group-based sessions and home practice, which I thought was a really interesting idea. So they tried to encourage people to take home the philosophy of the sessions and perform things like mindful walking or mindful eating, where you try and slow down and pay attention to what you're doing. And they found that the mindfulness participants were 1/3 less likely to score above the stress threshold, which normally qualifies the need for mental health support. And even during the most stressful time of their year, which was their summer exam period, the distress scores for the mindfulness group actually fell below the baseline levels, which were measured at the start of the study. So even in high stress situations, mindfulness helped them become more calm.
That's pretty good to know.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll practice that.
Yeah, well, you
In
can.
a few weeks.
We're actually going to link a free guided meditation from the University of LA in California, which was suggested by Elephant in the Room and Glasgow University Positive Minds. So Elephant in the Room is the Queen Margaret Union's mental health campaign. It was set up in 2015, and their aim is to spread awareness, to tackle the stigma associated with mental health, and provide links between students and support services. And for anyone who is feeling stressed over the exam period, or maybe even just wants someone to talk to, or just to relax for a little bit, they run various events throughout the year, like documentary screenings and workshops. When I met the person who recommended this meditation, they were doing a tie-dye workshop, which looked pretty good fun. Their most recurring events are the bi-monthly creative sessions, which are sessions for people to take a break and try something creative. They hold committee meetings every Monday at 4 p.m. in the QMU boardroom, and yeah, they're really great to talk to if you need a chat or just to unwind for a bit. And GU Positive Minds are also there for anyone who would like to get in touch with someone. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
And we hope all of you at home have been able to pick up some great tips for your revision. And also, we're going to test and see whether you can remember the words.
Yeah.
Test yourself.
So, do you want to write them down somewhere?
Sure, so that we don't...
So don't cheat.
Okay.
I forgot about the competition.
Okay.
I think I sort of gave up partway through because I was like, I think 5. No, 6. I've got 6. I'm happy with that. Rhoda's.
I'm still writing. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 9.
Ooh.
Okay. Should I start?
Yeah, you go
Okay,
first.
so I have orange, laptop, pen, window, shoe, dark, dream, foot, and red.
I think you're missing glasses.
Glasses,
yeah.
yes. Okay.
I've got orange, pen, laptop, red, shoe, and black. How did you, what was your story?
Okay, so basically, orange, there's an orange, and then laptop came. So there's an orange on my laptop, and I push it down with the pen, and then I can't really remember, like, there were, like, little bits of the story that I missed now, but there is a shoe flowing through a window, a foot stepping into the dark, and then suddenly it all turns out to be a dream. And someone was wearing a red dress, I think. But, yeah.
I did my route from my kitchen, so I was like, in my kitchen, there's an orange there. Pick up my laptop, put it in my bag, also put that with my pen. I then put on my red shoe and walk out the door, which I linked in my mind to the window somehow, and then step into the black, and then I sort of tailed off there.
Nice.
So it seems like maybe your story method.
Can you read the order of the words again?
Yeah, you both missed glasses, which is weird.
Interesting, yeah.
The order was orange, laptop, pen, red, glasses, shoe, window, foot, black, and dream.
I thought glasses came at the end. Until hearing it
I
again.
completely forgot about glasses. That was just erased from my mind.
We hope you've picked up some other great tips and methods for your revision. And remember to look after yourself this exam session. Eat well, sleep well, and remember all of your work will pay off and the holidays are just around the corner. Catch up with us next month for our holiday episode. In the meantime, you can listen to our previous episodes and this month's interview with Dr. Heather Cleland-Woods and Holly Scott about the importance of sleep for exam success. Please let us know any feedback on the Facebook page or at our new email, which I'm very excited about, which is psychsococlock@gmail.com, all lowercase. And we also have a new Psych Soc O'Clock YouTube channel where you can find all of our podcasts. And we are on Spotify, and we are on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud, and I'm working on getting us on Google Play.
So lots of options.
Yeah, many options. Everyone and their nan can listen on whatever format that they like. Next month's campus chat question will be, what is the best gift you've ever received? So please send in all of your audio clips if you want to be on the podcast. And if you can't record audio, then I can try and read out some really great gifts if anyone sends me an email. Thank you very much for listening. And until then,
good luck!
This podcast was created by Amelia Hilton in association with the Glasgow University Psychology Society. This episode was written and recorded by Amelia Hilton, Rhoda von Belo, and Kaori Takeda Molina. It was produced by Amelia Hilton and edited by Jack Harding. Special thanks to Jack Harding for the original music, and to the University of Glasgow School of Critical Studies for providing the recording facility.